on a diet Monday through Friday. It's
We're
just
live.
What's up,
Keep
everybody?
going. No, let's keep going. We're talking about calorie deficit.
So I'm usually good on a diet Monday through Friday. Like, and Justin, this is gonna gross you out, but I've got this thing where I get a bunch of ground sirloin from Aldi.
Okay.
And I cook it all, right? And then, I prep it, have it ready. So I eat 6 ounces of meat and a green or carb basically at each meal. I've gotten super lazy so much that I use the blender.
Okay, all right. I see where you're going.
Ground sirloin in the blender with the spinach and blend it up.
Sorry.
And drink it.
No judgment,
most
man.
disgusting experience ever. I don't want to do it, but getting the calories in, got to figure out a way.
Yeah,
I remember Nate's brother, Jonathan Wallace, national championship winner, Florida State backup offensive tackle. He used to eat a whole Papa John's pizza every night during the season. I remember seeing that. I was like, Jonathan, what is that? And I'm like, think about that, the stuff that the athletes have to do, to their bodies to order to make weight, that stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
What you got us watching, Nate?
Yeah, so I want to show you. I want to get your take on this because this is something that Bob Schlehuber over at Political Misfits on Radio Sputnik got me to react to, and it's like the idea that that a vegan diet is not just about doing some moralistic virtue signaling or anything. That it's actually better for us all than meat, and it actually literally increases performance and also helps you so I'm not at all. I'm not a vegan. I think it's very compelling. But I'm just gonna play the trailer real quick and just to give people. It's on Netflix, but I would suggest checking it out. This definitely was mind blowing to me. So go ahead and play this real quick.
It's not a bad way to go, especially when you're sitting here Mike and I eating so much meat in a day.
Yeah. Check this out.
They showed us commercials. Steak. That's what a man eats. Selling that idea that real men eat meat.
Serious man food.
But you got to understand that's marketing. That's not based on reality.
I've been teaching fighting techniques to government agencies for more than 15 years. Then I got injured, unable to teach for at least 6 months. I spent more than 1,000 hours studying science on recovery and nutrition, and stumbled across a study about the Roman gladiators.
The gladiators were predominantly vegetarian.
How could the original professional fighters be so powerful, eating only plants?
When I made the switch to a plant-based diet, I qualified for my 3rd Olympic team.
Kendrick Ferris, man, he's
badass. I was like, man, I should have done this a long while ago.
When I went plant-based, I wasn't sure if I was going to survive. And I actually became like a machine.
One of the biggest misconceptions in sports nutrition is that we have to have animal protein to perform at a high level. That's just not true.
Sometimes you have to do things that your competitors aren't doing.
Justin, that's the St. Louis Cardinals team doctor, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Today's blood and yesterday's blood.
Yeah. I think this is going to wake a lot of people up.
I was recovering better, not getting as sore. This was our best season in the last 15 years, and we had 14 guys on plant-based diets.
Still want to have more energy.
Cholesterol was 276. Today, 169.
Whoa, now you're talking.
Now you're talking. Give me this, Nate. You gonna give me this Titan propaganda?
My grandchildren can't keep up with
the Jags show.
It's not one set of dietary guidelines for improving your performance as an athlete. Another one for reversing heart disease, reversing diabetes. It's the same for all of them.
Someone asked me, how could you get as strong as an ox without eating any meat? And my answer was, have you ever seen an ox eating meat?
That's the strongest guy in the world.
All right, so I have a very strong opinion on this. So I don't know if folks know me. I lift a lot of weight, so I casually follow a lot of dialogue that's in like powerlifting communities, bodybuilding communities, especially about nutrition or somebody who's tried to do my own diets and stuff like that. And I'm a meat eater, you know what I'm saying? But I also eat vegetables. I also eat spinach and stuff. So what I will say is I think athletically, you can maintain and do exactly what you did eating meat, eating veggies, you know what I'm saying? Eating greens. I think there's protein, you know, and also you will be healthier. Like so much meat culture is like, you know, essentially fueled by like, you know, the food production industrial complex, capitalist industry that makes so much billions of dollars off of making sure people are eating red meat. You know what I'm saying? So that's like flat off the jump. That's why our diets are the way it is, because cattle, it was a huge industry. You know, it's an industry that built fucking cities. Like,
and the Cattle Ranchers Association is some of the most reactionary, like, you know, political
organizations
in America.
We were just talking about like Arizona in the movie Tombstone, talking about the cattle ranchers. I don't know if that's the topic. No, but like think of, you know, even Jacksonville used to be named Cowford. You know what I'm saying? That used to be a huge industry here, even in Jacksonville. I mean, so that's why our diets are so meat driven, you know, because of the market, you know, forces and the state forces that, you know, the capitalist state forces that incentivize those areas to flourish, you know, because best believe if state subsidies were going towards, you know, building, you know, vegan, like building farms of like food, you know, for vegetarians and plant-based, you know, that would also be what we eat. You know, like we don't necessarily, we're conditioned, you know, by society in regards to our diet, you know, like imperialism changes diets every day. With that being said, in terms of athletics in general, I do think you could do the same with meat as you did with plant-based. Now, I will say in terms of, let's say sports like bodybuilding, well, not really a sports, like a pageantry thing, but like a thing like bodybuilding where you're, or like when you're first starting, like getting big, playing football or something like that, I think it's very difficult to, you know, to be taken seriously and say that you can get as big as you did, you know, eating like plants every day, as opposed to if you added in like red meat and protein. You know what I'm saying? I think it's difficult to say that because there is stuff in red meat like zinc and shit that you have to supplement with a plant-based diet. Well,
I don't know, man. Watch it after I believed all that until I watched that movie, and then I was like completely like.
But then, like, think about it. Think about it. Look at like Kendrick Ferris. He's a world, like, you know, he's a GOAT in like the Olympic lifting community.
Yeah.
He became plant-based and it's sustaining him, and he's still strong. He got to where he is and the muscle mass where he is. You know what I mean? That's an argument that I've heard. But even Arnold Schwarzenegger, like, he's plant-based now, which is great. But he was the same guy who used to advocate for drinking 3 gallons of milk a day and eating like he would do that. He would advocate for pure like dairy and meat, and he was Mr. Olympia. So would he have, we just haven't seen it yet, you know, but I'm always open to more evidence. If there's a bodybuilder, you know, let's say in that sport, or that pageantry, if you're a bodybuilder and you get huge and the next Mr. Olympia is plant-based, okay, that's new evidence.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing that blew my mind. Just check the film out and let me know what you think if you see it, because like I'd like to hear your reaction, man. Yeah.
I want to also throw out that, like, you know, I do, like, all of my meat protein comes from, you know, chicken, usually like 500 grams a day. But all of my protein is all plant-based. So that's all like pea protein based, like all my protein powders. Cause I don't know, we've talked about this a lot. We've talked about shakes a lot in the past, but like, I'm not a big fan of eating. That's why I ate shitty for so many years. It's more of a nuisance. Make stuff.
You're one of the more like you. You eat. You live to eat. You don't eat to live. You eat to live, not to live. You don't live to eat. Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, so like protein supplement is huge. Like that's a huge part of my daily. So all I did was shift that over to plant-based, because there's so many now. And the plant-based stuff, it's like you look at all of the like milk whey based at 20 grams of protein per serving. All of my plant-based kick that up to like 25. So they're offering more protein for the same amount, you know? I mean, so like in that shift, it's like if you went plant-based and didn't mind, hitting the shakes 3-4 times a day, you could supplement all of that. Like I could easily go plant protein based. It's a lot of drinking. It's a lot of shakes. It's a lot of blending. You know what I mean? Like which a lot of people are just going to be like, no, I want my chicken at times. I want my steak. Yeah.
No, I mean, so much of like, it's just like, it's the effect of capitalism in the food industry and the capitalism. I mean, so much of what we associate food with is pure pleasure, and that's done through the commercials, through your association with experience, eating certain stuff. You know what I'm saying? That's also,
totally.
Food, you know what I'm saying? Like a lot of diets were essentially forged from like, oppressed people who were dealing with the like remnants of like what they were left, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I do think that plant-based is better overall for people in regards to reducing inflammation. And let's be real, like most people who let's be real, like there's always this contrast of like, the people who eat meat and the people who eat plant-based. And there are people who eat meat who eat it like, who eat some meat and then eat veggies, eat their vitamins, don't go shithead, don't like order and then be like, oh, it's the meat, when it's like, yo, like get your whole diet's fucked up, it's not just the meat.
Exactly.
I mean, I think so much of it is like people like go from like eating like Whataburger and Big Macs and with king size fries to eating like a plant-based diet, and then they're like, wow, I'm losing weight. Well, no shit. You know what I'm saying? You literally drop calories like 1,500 a day. I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So
and by the way, that's what that pizza diet got my brother right there. That was at the national championship game. Mike mentioned. Go ahead, Justin.
It's wild. It's wild, right? So like these last 6 months, like people at work, because people started to come back to work, and they left back in March of 2020. I've been going to the office every day. It's different when you are doing video stuff. It's hard to do that from home. I can't be there shooting and be home.
We got to hear about your college visit yesterday too, or was it Lewis and Clark? Some Christian.
I definitely chat about that. But yeah, like it's funny, like how many people, it's like same mentality, right? Is like having a shitty diet, then going plant-based and being like, oh man, this is a miracle. But like, it's amazing how people crave something that's like instant or doesn't require work or doesn't require, like I've had 2 different people at work be like, man, you look like you've lost a ton of weight. Like, how'd you do it? And I was like, seriously, calorie deficit for 6 straight months and I work out twice a day. And they're like, oh no, that sucks. That sounds awful. Like what else did you do? And you're like, no, that's what I did. Like there's no like fast route. There's no like substitute. Put your body in a deficit and it will lose weight, and work out to help that deficit along. And it works. But like people want that fast way, right? In the same way that they want to go, yeah, I went from Five Guys to eating spinach and I lost weight.
Yeah.
It must be that I'm plant-based. And you're like, no, it's because you too many calories in. Like it is amazing how many people are like, oh man, what quick program did you do? And it's like, there is no quick program, man. Like
lifestyle,
put in the work.
What do you mean? Put in the work. Justin, I stayed up all night last night watching cool program testimonials from guys selling, I can't do it that way, you're saying?
Nope.
No, man.
I don't know. But yeah, it is kind of interesting seeing all the executive producers on that documentary, though. A lot of, pro athletes on the Tennessee Titans, football team.
Mike's favorite ball club.
Yeah. I wanted to say, is Derrick Henry vegan? And I don't know if he is, but.
Yeah,
I mean, my wife is vegetarian. You can have a delicious diet being plant-based, so that's definitely not where I'm coming at it from that. I still eat meat.
I mean, it's tough, man. I mean, it's really tough. My girlfriend has, 13 food allergies. She has autoimmune issues, and meat's one of the things that she can have. So it's like, there's so many things she can't have, right? And, you know, we've talked about that too. And it's like, that's just, why would you cut out more willingly when you have so many things that you can't eat at all? Like, why remove more options from your diet at that point? It's like,
I agree. And I think
because meat is murder.
I think humans as a whole weren't necessarily meant to eat. I mean, you know, like one of my good friends, you know, his name was Ralph Wilson. He had an organization called Eating with Your Eyes Open, and he would tell me, you know, how like the human teeth are already designed to be eating like uncooked flesh. You know what I'm saying? Like how our teeth are designed like to eat plants. Like, you know, humans are, I think, is it herbivores? I think we are like kind of more naturally herbivores, but I think due to, you know, how classes and society has produced in time, like our diets have adapted due to what we had in front of us, you know. So I don't know, I applaud the movement. I mean, I think, you know, I'm morally as well, you know, I am a hypocrite because I eat meat, but you know, I am fundamentally against the food industry and like the standards in which they treat animals and how they treat, you know, just like the over, you know, like pigs and shit being like juiced up with steroids, you know, just unnaturally stuff of that nature. All done to maximize profit, you know, because the pumping these like animals up with these unnatural hormones and basically mass producing them all for the purposes of, you know, more demand on the market to make more money for, you know, the ruling class and the billionaires, you know. So it's like that has no interest with us. And I think so many people, you know, just, you know, US kind of machismo around meat, you know, that even Arnold was talking about. So much is the American identity is built around them eating a steak, you know, and which is also which is why also American identity. I mean, a lot of it is shitty healthcare and the fact that our life expectancy rate has actually gone down the past couple of years. You know, like it's really incredible how out of shape this country is, myself included.
Hey, go ahead.
It's crazy. I mean, what the industry does, what capitalism does to these things. I mean, I grew up on a really small, like just family run beef farm. I've got a friend now who runs an organic beef and organic dairy here in Indiana, you know, and like when you're in those situations and you're seeing how that's being done versus a factory farm, corporate farm, you know, and the differences between the differences between the conditions, the differences between the practices, the differences between the quality of life for the animals, all that shit, you know? So like, I mean, I get it. I get like how somebody could be like, I'm going to abstain from this to shut that part of it down, you know? Yeah. Like more power to you, you know what I mean? But like, there's also these small operations that aren't run like that, but yeah.
Real quick, so what do y'all make? First of all, congrats to Venezuela on denying Colombia the victory about less than an hour ago in the Copa Cup. That was unbelievable, actually, watching Colombia just dominate the game. And, you know, so I don't know what the politics are of the players there, but
I wore the wrong shirt. I got Lumumba on this shirt, but I should have grabbed the Chavez one.
What about what Mike's got his Maduro shirt of Maduro driving the bus, you know, coming out to No, you know, it's funny because like a lot of the hate, the class hate on Maduro is definitely like they'll just drop like the former authoritarian bus driver, you know, like, as if like, yo, you're not saying that just to like add some interesting like background. You're saying that purely to be like, what the fuck is this guy doing being a president? He's a bus driver, you know. Like,
handpicked successor.
Yeah. So talk about that real quick. Like the whole epithets that are just grained in. Handpicked successor.
Dude, he was the vice president.
Right. It's meant to, you know, hammer in the idea of it being illegitimate, right? There's like the whole, let's see, you know, the strong man. The strong man.
Yeah, the strong man.
And,
handpicked successor.
The newspaper headlines, you know, Venezuelan autocratic leader.
Right.
Venezuelan strong man. You know.
Venezuelan strong man. Yeah.
Former The hand-picked successor ones.
What about rules? What about a rules-based order, which just means like U.S. imperial dictatorship? So
yeah.
Who makes the rules? Which people? That's what it means. We're for a rule-based international order that we make the rules. They're not playing by the right rules.
Wait, didn't you just hear Biden yesterday? I mean, imagine if the United States were to go on behaving and rigging elections and things like that. Just imagine.
Can you imagine that? All right, but I want to show. If you want to get real though, what about this? This looks like a cross between like Max. I heard Max talking on RJ Eskow's show, the 0 Hour, and he said that this is a straight up cross between like a racist Southern sheriff like Boss Hogg mixed with like some crazy Tom Clancy character that's like out there, doing some crazy moves to go, knock off, bump, just fuck over some communists somewhere. And drop some anti-commie ninja stuff, and you see like Putin like in his aviators. I mean, it's funny. He made the point too of like, Joe Biden, like, we talked about like reporters and like how heroic reporters are and stuff. Like, it's like the fake adversarial journalism of like the U.S. press corps is phenomenal. It's like phenomenal in a shitty way. But what they do is they're always out there. And like Trump, like literally got like labeled with this like being too soft on Putin, because if you like, actually try to negotiate an extension to SALT, it's a strategic arms limitation treaty, or you try to like do things that are gonna like help prevent like a world war. Like he made the point that for the first time he actually had could empathize with like Biden in the sense of like kind of tongue in cheek, but the dude like when he made that joke about running over the reporter was literally asking them about like how are you going to like punish like Russia? Are you going to be willing to use like military force? And then like he's like, what the hell? Like, hey, are you going to use military force? We don't even know. Like, there's no like verifiable proof about that. Like, the power grid attack on the East Coast, and it's like he's like, you want to get?
How are you going to punish China for spreading COVID-19? What is the penalty? Why, how are you going to punish, Kim Jong-un for murdering his citizens?
You're going to punish? Yeah, you just do it, right?
Answer that question.
Yeah. No, but they're complete hacks. Yes, what about how the media gets up there at this thing and they're literally handpicked? Like Biden was complaining why there's only like 3 or 4 people he can call on, and it's like that is evidence of just how managed he is. He doesn't even have any like real say in like who these people are that are handpicked coming in there. It's just like it is so next level insane. I mean, like with this whole like, I mean, go ahead, man.
Do you remember? There's a great video. It like seemed to disappear, right? Kind of like how that Trevor Noah video disappeared of him defending police violence in South Africa. Like that disappeared when he did his like Maddow crocodile tears. Like these things disappear. But like there's that video of like Obama and Putin sitting on a stage, like slapping each other's knee and like telling jokes and like laughing. And then within like 3 months, the new Cold War started. And it's and you can find it, but I mean, it's hard. It's hard to find that video. It's like, no, we got to get rid of that. Like we got to, like, it's when the corner was turned.
Look, man,
evil baddies.
We haven't covered enough, like, stock car racing, so I figured we'd like, give a little shout out to our number one commander in chiefs, big Ford truck, Ford tough, like stock car driver Joe Biden. So, he's sitting there and he, after he like, says he wants to, you want to get in front of my truck. He goes and does a little driving straight away. But what's like fascinating is the media is always trying to, like, it's like this American media, it's insane. They did Jim Acosta. They tried to turn him into some sort of fake hero. I mean, the idea that, like, with the passing away of Fisk, that, like, it's really, I don't think we're going to have another, like, adversarial journalist with any kind of proximity to the mainstream like that. I mean, they carefully curated people that know nothing about Russia, not the first thing about it. But anyways, take a look and behold Joe Biden, the driver.
Read it.
That's inspiring. God bless America, man.
Oh, ridiculous.
President. This sucker's quick. How's it feel? President, would you buy one of these? I would.
All right, I mean, like, what is happening?
It was an ad for Ford. It was an ad. It's an ad. It's an ad for Ford. I mean,
would you buy one of these? I would. Yeah, man. I mean, wow. So
yeah.
anyway,
Mike, did you see? I posted yesterday. I don't know how many people saw this, but I have a friend out in Seattle who is a Lewis and Clark College alum, and the alums were the first to get the letter. And the letter was, "Hey, we're opening up this virtual and in-person course for alums, non-students alike." You know, they opened it up, like I said, to alums at first, and they caused a little bit of a stir. The alums couldn't do anything to shut it down. So the story hasn't gotten a ton of traction. It's one university, but wanted to get your take on this. Essentially, what Lewis and Clark College is doing is they're doing a birthright trip that is cloaked as education. It's Middle East education, and they say right in like the top paragraph, it's like you're going to meet with, you know, Palestinian and Israeli, leaders in the area. People, then you realize they're throwing like a Palestinian Christian out there, like they're not gonna let you talk to anyone who's Muslim or Arab, like at all. They're gonna let you talk to a Palestinian Christian. But anyway, like you start looking at these points and you line it up with a birthright trip, and it's a birthright trip. Lewis and Clark College in Portland, Oregon is doing a birthright, and they're selling it as education, like a class. I mean, that if you're not enrolled, it doesn't count. But if you're enrolled, it'll actually count.
Isn't that like essentially what all birthright trips are? That's like,
I mean,
publicly funded. I mean, I can't really see shit like in Florida, like Governor Ron DeSantis, he had like he legit had like a cabinet meeting at the U.S. embassy in Jerusalem. You know, the Israeli embassy in Jerusalem.
The U.S. embassy in Jerusalem.
Yeah, the U.S. embassy in Jerusalem. Like I think he brought the whole like press corps to occupy Palestine, or, Israeli territory. They eliminated the China foreign exchange program for the Israeli foreign student exchange, and like there's been a lot more. There's been a lot more kind of with the rise of like the BDS movement, like. Which is, calling for, boycott and divestment from entities supporting the apartheid state of Israel. There's been a lot of pushback from the right wing to make U.S. institutions even more intertwined with the Israeli state, by changing like here in Florida, like I said, like all the public universities of some kind have some partnership with an Israeli university. That's public tax dollars being done to favor one thing. In Jacksonville, we have bonds that are like tied to Israel as well. There's a deep interconnection of kind of capital together, done purposely to make sure that it props up the occupying, the occupied state, like it props them up financially, and the U.S. essentially is the U.S. doing it is essentially the only way they're able to maintain any sort of legitimacy. So it's no surprise that you have even private universities like Lewis and Clark. Essentially that's all what birthright trips are. You know what I'm saying? In essence, is it's really it's cool for someone to view where their ancestral heritage is. However, being done in a way to foster, economic, relationships and recruit people to the cause of supporting the Israeli state. That's the sole purposes of it. It's educational propaganda for them. I mean, that is disappointing that that's happening.
So
what's crazy is that like they're opening it up beyond that birthright, right? Like what I saw in this program was, what I see is they're opening it up saying, okay, if we do this as education and we do this through the school, you no longer have to have the heritage. You can just be anybody. This to me, like I saw it like the NFL owners taking the players, right? It's like, let's take people with no tie to this and indoctrinate them as well. Like, it's just a way of kind of expanding that.
I really think. I mean, look, I hope it doesn't expand, but I mean, I think that these things are going on. You would find if we did a deep dive on like a lot of more campuses than people think. I mean, this is not. It's already beyond that. I hate to say. I mean, it's we got to hit on TYT, man, because like what's going on right now. That's a perfect example of like what's all wrong in the world. But I mean, it's messed up, Justin. It really is. And like this stuff. I mean, maybe I'm just jaded, having dealt with this, and like been attacked by these people and stuff when I was doing SJP stuff and all that. But
yeah, my God,
it's wild. Yeah.
Pull up the animation profile.
We'll pause on that right now. But I did want to get a reaction to what I'm sharing here in a second. I'm going to play this about the Copa Cup and what's going on with Brazil because it's kind of interesting. But before that though, let's we'll get the TYT after that. I'll save that. But let's the Brazil thing is kind of wild, and want to just play this from Al Jazeera and get y'all's reaction.
Cláudio Silva has been selling football souvenirs for 25 years, always in the same spot, in front of Rio de Janeiro's iconic Maracanã Stadium, which used to fill up with fans and tourists. Not anymore. Last year, when the coronavirus pandemic hit Brazil, this stadium was used as a field hospital. Infections are still spreading, and the number of COVID-19 deaths is about to reach 500,000. But the Maracanã will open its doors for the final game of the Copa America, which begins on Sunday, amid harsh criticisms from Brazilian players and head coach Tite over risks of coronavirus infections. On Saturday, players and staff tested positive for COVID-19 and had to be quarantined in the capital, Brasilia.
Gostaria que não tivesse.
I would like for us not to have these problems, not just with Venezuela, but with anyone. This is a messed up organization, and this is not a political point of view. This is a direct criticism to the South American Football Federation, CONMEBOL, and the Brazilian Football Confederation, who decided to have the Copa America here.
Yes.
The decision was backed by Brazil's President Jair Bolsonaro, sparking outrage in Congress.
This will be a death championship. We need a vaccine championship.
The matter ended up in the Supreme Court, which allowed it just 3 days before kickoff.
But the debate about holding such a big sports event in a country with the world's second largest COVID-19 death toll continues.
In Brazil, we had the percentage of people infected and in the football business was equivalent to the frontline doctors in hospitals, the same percentage. So doctors are subjected to a very high viral concentration, density, right? Well, soccer players in Brazil were infected at the same rate, which is incredible. It's scary.
Even Cláudio, who makes a living selling T-shirts and flags to football fans, says this year's tournament is too risky.
The Brazilian government wants the Copa America for political reasons. Football is popular and it involves a lot of money. And there are elections next year. But what about the rest of the country? Not even 11% has been fully vaccinated. I'm 51 and I haven't had the first dose of any vaccine.
He's been staging a lonely protest for the few tourists that pass by the Maracanã. His banner says, "We don't want the Copa America. We want vaccines."
All right. So I want to get just what's y'all's reaction. I mean, the fact that I think it speaks to the vaccine apartheid, we're seeing here around the world, and also Bolsonaro's just total indifference to, anything having to do with human life at all.
No, I was thinking how I saw a press release yesterday from the U.S. Embassy in Trinidad Tobago, in which they gave them a whopping 88 vaccines.
88.
And then
that's enough.
I went to Winn-Dixie the other day, Nate, which is a famous, Southern grocery store.
You did it. You did it. Win, Dixie.
Dixie, yeah.
Dixie's gonna win next time.
One of the signs said COVID-19 vaccines available. Please ask.
No, what about the Wawas here in Jersey that are like, yo, get a big bonus check for getting your vax, bringing your vax card, get hired, and then we'll throw you some extra cash just to bring your vax card.
So just in general, like, was it like there was a tweet I had retweeted about some like journalists, I guess with Reuters or so, who try to insinuate like, oh, in Russia they have a bad vaccination level of vaccination because the humans there care less about life, because they try to reflect it upon, under Putin.
I don't know. I don't think the Sputnik vaccine is bad, really.
But they're like under Putin, people don't care about life,
Right? Yeah. Duh, Michael. We already know that.
Russians are more bloodthirsty people, according to
why do you think I go on Radio Sputnik every week? It's just like gotta.
Shout out to Radio Sputnik, but then you look at the United States, in which you have like it's a country in which everybody could get a vaccine. There's vaccines, like the U.S. state has put all of their economic and federal might behind these private corporations making a vaccine. You know what I'm saying? In fact, that the U.S. is pledging to buy vaccines from this corporation to give to other countries. So who still makes money? The ruling class that runs these corporations, like in these like Pfizer, they the U.S. fought against patent, sharing patents for the vaccine with other nations who needed help. With that. And thankfully, you've had nations like China that have developed successful vaccines and have given those vaccines to developing nations, that need it, because of course the U.S., you saw a lot of press being out there, how China is trying to buy diplomacy by giving vaccines. Well, shit, what is the U.S. doing?
Yeah.
Just in general,
the
U.S. literally half of the country believes that vaccines are evil, and there's a party that literally represents those people, that put that out there, that vaccines are evil. So you have hesitancy towards the vaccinations because, you legit have like leadership, of the Republican Party and like governor's houses and shit who basically made it seem like COVID was fake. Then you have the mistrust of vaccines, which is legitimate from people who don't trust corporate America, who have experimented on like African American people. You have that distrust coming from certain communities, like the Black community, on the vaccination. So it just leads to, the U.S. has no right to dictate to other countries, anything, because look at the United States.
But isn't Brazil?
Everybody can get a vaccine. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
To Brazil,
Brazil's basically doing the U.S.'s policy, right? They're
they're repeating it.
Soft open, just whatever. And essentially like that, that story reminds me of like, let's say, talks of having like the RNC in Jacksonville, or like, and right now the U.S. is at a pace in which everything is open. You know what I'm saying? Even if it, it is what it is. So you have other countries like Brazil that's trying to keep up with that, and they're going to skirt security measures because they see their competitors in the global capitalist market, like the U.S., like these other places that are opening up.
There's a big difference though. Brazil's only at 11% vaccination rate though. That's what's wild.
They don't care. It's not about numbers.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
That's fact.
It's like a couple things. I was thinking about like during all of this, and that's one. Yeah, we're not. There's a vaccine apartheid going on for sure. We're not sharing that with many people at all. But do you guys see the news that if you cross the border legally, you have to show that you've been vaccinated? But if it's the Russian or the Chinese vaccination, that's an instant denial.
Right.
So we're going to send you right back, even though Mexico's received 22 million doses from those two countries. Yeah, they're essentially saying nope. It can't be theirs. It has to be ours.
Well, Justin, it fits with what you're saying about doing propaganda for Ford. They're doing propaganda for Pfizer, right?
Yeah,
marketing for Pfizer.
And this, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say is when we say that the U.S. like when we say that we live in an imperialist country in which a ruling class literally controls the state. This is what we mean. We mean the state literally operates for the function of making, of keeping the ruling class in power and making money for corporations. Like there's no fucking reason why private corporations like Pfizer have patents to the vaccinations and are making record profits, and it's backed by the U.S. state. It's literally backed by the government. The federal government is the one making these companies millions, billions of dollars. Like the poor, he wouldn't have did that shit for Toyota, but you know what I mean? Like for American cars, you know what I'm saying? He's test driving Ford, you know what I'm saying? Like that's the sole purpose of the U.S. state. Is to make money for the ruling class, and I think these are concrete examples through vaccinations and even like a crappy Ford commercial.
Yeah, the second thing I thought about, which gets back to sports specifically, is when Nate mentioned, no, Mike, you mentioned it, and that is that you have an entire party, right, that like supports these people who thinks it's a hoax, or who didn't think it was real, or who thinks the vaccination is a Bill Gates chip. You have this whole party. Now let's get to the sports side of that. Two things. The first one I take great pride in bringing up because do I hate the Cubs? The Cubs are the least vaccinated baseball team in the MLB right now. They're going to be, so I don't know if either of you know, but if you reach an 80% vaccination level on your team,
85.
85.
Yeah.
The restrictions lighten up. Your team is restricted less. They get more freedom as a team. And they're doing this by team, so they're not just letting like vaccinated players on your team. It's like punish everybody until your team gets up there. The Cubs are not going to make it. Like this whole year, like the GM's already come out and been like, it's not happening. And you've got Jason Hayward and Anthony Rizzo, who are both like speaking out about that and speaking out about that from the anti-vax standpoint, and that they're being like punished. Like it is absolutely ridiculous. But like the level that you have of that sort of, like you said, the party that's like backing this, but these right-wing players that are taking these stances. And then the next one I'm going to add to that is even worse, because this gets back to ESPN and how they're never on the side of the player. They're always on the side of the owner, and they never take a stand for the players union. They're always against the players union. And that is, you rarely see a story about how the players union, actually in ESPN, I don't think you've ever seen it, about how the players union's doing anything good. And today is no different. If you go to headlines right now, you will see that Cole Beasley is unhappy with the players union. And Cole Beasley is unhappy with the players union because they agreed to protocols that mean unvaccinated people like him don't get to do things his vaccinated teammates get to do. And he's mad. And oh man, never piss off Cole Beasley. I think it's absolutely ludicrous that you have, again, that section's the one. Like, what is Cole Beasley like? He's like one dude on the Bills who's probably
a mixtape about it.
But like it seems ridiculous to me that the one time we see, the players union brought up this week is because there's a problem with the players union, and that is Cole Beasley's problem. And that is that, he will not get the vaccination. And that's fine. You don't want to get it, that's fine. It's his argument is, oh yeah, I'm watching my teammates who are vaccinated get to do things that I don't get to do.
Right.
And you're like, well, yeah, but there's a reason. Like, you didn't do this thing, so you don't get to do this thing. And same with the Cubs. The Cubs as a team, I'm sure whoever's vaccinated on the Cubs is probably really pissed about this, because they're sitting here going, yep, we could loosen restrictions.
Well,
I mean,
Look at Jay Hay and Rizzo right there. They're keeping keeping it safe, right? I'm going to read this real quick from Forbes. If that's all right. Just I think it's insightful. Chicago Cubs vaccination status gains clarity while casting doubt about reaching 85% goal. This is just like 2 days ago. So the Cubs falling short of the 85% threshold of vaccinated players and staff has almost become old news. Team president Jed Hoyer essentially threw up his hands at the matter several weeks ago, saying that he doubted his organization would get there. Meanwhile, more than 2/3 of the rest of the MLB has gotten there, thus loosening COVID-19 related restrictions for their teams. As of the end of last week, only 8 teams were still under 85%. Side note, it's important to note that like this is the threshold that so whatever teams you see in the dugout that are still fully masked up and stuff, that's because they have to be, and the ones that aren't are because they're over that threshold basically. Hoyer told reporters Friday that the number of people who count toward that threshold is about 100. So that means that roughly 15 people within the Cubs organizations, be they players or staff or that works directly with them, are not vaccinated. But only 2, Anthony Rizzo and Jason Hayward, have publicly shared their vaccination status. Rizzo was asked by radio hosts on Chicago's ESPN 1000 before Friday's game against the Cardinals. And 2 days later, Hayward told the Chicago Tribune. Both revelations came the same weekend that Illinois fully reopened and Wrigley Field became fully welcoming full capacity crowds again. 2 things made possible in part by the city and state's vaccination rates. Just to get to the quotes here, Rizzo told reporters that he wanted to see all the data, and Hayward deflected by pointing out that the weekend's mask-free capacity crowds. Hayward goes on to say there needs to be more concern about the people on the outside, the people in the stands, the 100% sitting next to each other that aren't getting tested the way we are getting tested and say they're vaccinated or not. If they're concerned, Hayward told the Tribune. The Cubs outfit also said the enforcement of mask use has not been strictly enforced since the beginning of the season, and that while a lot of attention is being paid on the players' vaccination status, that's not the right direction for concern. He goes on to say, but they are pointing at the people that get tested at least 3 times a week, Hayward said. We're around each other every day who know whose families are vaccinated, who's not. We know if we test positive. We don't show up the next game. Neither Rizzo nor Hayward necessarily owes anyone a direct explanation, right? They just want to write for why they aren't vaccinated. Neither player shut the door on it, but said, but basically said they weren't anti-vaxxers, but, wanted some more time basically to see, the data and stuff like that. So there's a possibility of a rift forming in the clubhouse, actually, with, arguments going on about who's got the vaccine and who doesn't, Javi Baez being involved.
Because you get to go out, you get to do things, you open it up. You know what I mean? Like the Cubs have to host team after team that have reached these marks.
Well, what about the Chris Paul stuff? I mean, he literally just goes home to the arena, and some people are pointing to Phoenix being completely unmasked versus in LA being very much not that way, but at their games, and just the aerosols that they're probably in the building, moving around there, and Chris Paul is just perplexed at how he could test positive like that. I don't know, Mike, have you aware that you've seen the Chris Paul stuff that's gone down with how he's gonna possibly, after being 36 years old, having so much bad luck, throughout his career with injuries and stuff, and then now looks like he's gonna be sidelined for a game or two in the Western Conference Finals, after literally being Mr. Cautious McGee. So it's I think it's hard to ignore that Phoenix probably has a little role in that,
It was just funny seeing the memes, because you remember LeBron protocol to film that salsa commercial.
Yeah.
But then Chris Paul, and he has this situation. It's unfortunate. I'm hoping that Phoenix has had an amazing season so far. So
man, they're fun to watch, man. For real.
Yeah, they are fun to watch. But just in general on the situation. It's one of straight. That's everywhere in this country.
It's nothing.
With the vaccinations, we all are. And this is stuff I heard from the CEO of a hospital. We are. This is all a living experiment. You know what I'm saying? So I get folks' hesitancy for real on the vaccination. But I'm fully vaccinated. I encourage people to get fully vaccinated.
All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and
just real quick. We don't have to say anything on it. I just want the writing on this headline. This is the direct quote of the ESPN headline. I threw it in the comments.
All right,
Look at the heavy lifting they're doing with this, with the way they wrote this. Buffalo Bills wide receiver Cole Beasley on league's new COVID protocols. Then you go colon, the NFL Players Association, a joke. Like the leap they took there, right? The protocols are one thing. They tie it to the union. Like that's the kind of shit, as I keep doing this research into ESPN's history. Labor relations. This is the kind of stuff that they will do all the time. There's no reason to tie that into a headline.
No, other than to subtly promote the idea that the union is the problem, right? And to plant those seeds in the minds so that when they percolate, they germinate people are starting to think when CBA times roll, that's going to be a while now in the NFL. But any kind of labor disputes with the NFL, that you immediately start placing the blame at the foot of labor. So,
what other time does Cole Beasley get a headline? Like that's the other thing. It's like, what is he? Bills number 3, number 4. I mean, the point is, it's like to give Cole Beasley the headline, right? No, I'm not like wild. But you know what I mean? Like it's just it's the man can have a 300-yard game and he won't make the top page. You know what I mean? Like
no, he would make the top page if he had a 300-yard game, my man. I mean, come on, like don't be like he's been around
for a minute. Fourth in history. I'm just saying.
Maybe a 100-yard game, I would agree with you. But all right. Anyway, so I got to point this out, man. This TYT stuff is getting out of control because it's like I think it hits on. Look, Jimmy Dore, whatever. I mean, there's some stuff you like, some stuff I get the critics. I mean, but I also think that a lot of the stuff against him is because he's bringing up stuff that makes people uncomfortable, especially people that have, I mean, whatever you think of forced to vote, it's just like, I mean. You don't see these Democratic Party people have any better plans. I mean, but I understand it. I mean, he can be. I mean, I don't like this whole lab leak stuff. I think that's lazy, and I think it's also playing into sort of the right wing narrative about stuff. So look, I have my critiques, but this TYT stuff and the attack of Anna Kasparian on Aaron Mate and Cenk Uygur and what they've done going after the gray zone and the way they're using their platform to really attack journalism on Syria that is critical of the mainstream Washington State Department line is just astounding. And then to have them respond with evidence-based accusations you see to Jimmy Dore's DM and then launching this whole thing, launching this whole attack on the grade zone, their fact-based journalism, and this whole unhinged, flicking the birds off about "fuck you, Aaron Mate," blah blah blah, "fuck you." It's all about being critical of the fact that he's exposed the lie of the series of that the OPCW has been, literally cracking down on their own scientists just because they reported that the mainstream line that supports regime change, that supports State Department objectives is bullshit. This whole idea of Assad gasses his own people, all this stuff is all designed to condition us to be ready for war, to accept it. And TYT is a major promoter of it. And then to weaponize something that is serious as sexual assault and whatnot in a way that is so clearly just opportunistic and meant to deflect attention away from something they cannot defend. Because it's not like they're coming out and making this statement on any other stuff. And it's also you want to point to the hypocrisy? Just check out this. This is stuff that TYT has wiped from their records. They've wiped this stuff. And it's been only because people have preserved this on their own on the internet that these things still exist. So you just play a few clips and make your own mind up about whether you think TYT has any kind of high ground on the issue of sexual harassment and assault.
I don't know if I can hear it, Nate.
What's that?
Yeah, there's no audio.
Oh, there's no audio. Oh, all right. Let's see. Anyway, so I mean, it's just like I mean, we don't need to see it, but it's like the video. I mean, just go check it out yourself. You know, it's like it's all stuff's all on there. It's not like anything secret. It's just amazing to me that Cenk Uygur is going around being the number one cheerleader for like the State Department and like this whole Syria thing. They have gone after Aaron Mate. They've gone after the Grayson. They've gone after anybody that pushes back on the idea and then pushing the whole McCarthyite smears that everybody's Russian agents. It's like, what is TYT? Like, they are a propaganda arm to me of the Democratic Party, essentially, but yet masquerading as if they're somehow critics. And it's like, I don't know, man. It's just wild to me that like they are able to get away with this stuff, like, you know, in so many circles, like in, you know, progressive media. And especially they've gone on Anya Parampil, shout out to my good friend Anya, and like and what in the match, and that they've gone on and they've explained this like thoroughly, and Aaron especially. I mean, Aaron's journalism about exposing the cover up of the OPCW in Syria is heroic, and they don't, TYT doesn't attack based on critiques of your journalism, critiques of stories. They just go ad hominem because that's all they got. And it's like, to me, it's like you lose credibility if you do that, and it's damaging to like real sexual harassment and assault to like trivialize stuff like this. I don't know. What's your take?
No, I used to actually, when I was I first started following like Sink and Anna, I think after the was it Obama's re-election, you know, they were like left liberal, and they still, I mean, that's just what they are, left liberal. Right. Pro, you know, in terms of like the foreign policy has always been similar to democracy now, you know, so like kind of like give platform from a left, give kind of this weird kind of quasi cover for regime change, but from a left perspective. You know what I mean? It was just weird.
Or a human rights perspective.
Human rights. It's just weird. It was like reminded me of like the, you know, when Democracy Now!, you know, they used to have on like people who were supportive of the so-called Libyan revolution, when in reality a bunch of like jihadists whose sole purpose was to destabilize the country. I mean, it's kind of pathetic, really. And you know, it's just TYT kind of has been shitty for a while, but you can also tell that they made a strategic choice to, you know, kind of be this different MSNBC with the same politics, and it's like, so it's all BS, you know, it's all BS. And even in one of the pictures that Anna Kasparian she shared, kind of shit talking the Syrian like delegation, you know, because I always said like these pro-Assad groups, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
These pro-Assad groups that are paying people like all right, you have a country, Syria, you know, whose president is Bashar al-Assad. His like father was formerly the president. His brother was supposed to be president. He died in a car accident. And this guy, like Assad is actually an eye doctor. You know what I'm saying? He met his wife, I think in the UK, because he's an ophthalmologist or whatever. You know, countries destabilized. You've had protests. You know, all this shit. You know, U.S.-backed rebels and, you know, all the European Union-backed, you know, jihadists, you know, funded by the Saudi Gulf monarchies trying to destabilize your country, doing all this shit. There's literally U.S. fucking soldiers. There was pictures that showed like the U.S. soldiers on an oil field with guns and shit. It is literally there. You know, Trump said it best. We went in, we took the oil. You know, that's the thing about Trump. You know,
and we're still taking their oil.
And we're still taking the oil. We're still taking the oil. So they having an issue, you know, the biggest struggle has always in Syria under, you know, is maintaining the national government and maintaining a unified country, maintaining its own sovereignty, because right now you have other nations like the United States, like the apartheid state of like Israel, that's literally encroaching on Syrian land, like the Golan Heights, you know, and claiming that it's theirs because of this like destabilizing influence. So the purpose of the stabilization of Syria was for the Israeli like Zionist project to grow, as well as, you know, oil and all that shit. So you're telling me that this person, you know, these people, you know, you're telling me that they have a bunch of money to just go start paying Westerners, you know, like, hey, you know, you spread some propaganda for us. I'm just like, no, the people who have a bunch of money are the people supportive of regime change. I mean, that makes if you're gonna use this whole the paying people shit, well, shit, like who, like these jihadists, you know, they're like, the U.S. is literally, you know, 60 Minutes is literally putting former ISIS commanders, jihadists, Saudi-backed, rebels, and trying to normalize them, and into the eyes of Americans. So you're like, oh, this seems like a good guy. He should be over Assad. And this guy is literally a fucking terrorist. He was chopping people's heads off and shit.
And it's wild how these Al Jazeera journalists, a lot of them that are funded by Qatar, are the ones launching a lot of these attacks. Surprise, surprise. Guess who's funding a lot of these Salafi jihadists in Syria that are not liberal, that are not freedom fighters, that are not doing any of that bullshit they project onto them at all. In fact, they were the ones when ISIS held territory in Syria that were running like some of the most repressive medieval governing arrangements we've ever seen. They're sitting there forcing people, like kids even, to dig out tunnels for them and shit like that. And people living in a state of siege. And then yet, whatever wrong. I mean, the Syrian government. One thing you can't do. You have a lot of freedoms. And there's a lot of things you can do in Syria. And I'm not saying but one thing you can't do is criticize the government. But and criticize Assad particularly. All right, but that if you're gonna say that and leave out the context that the alternative in no unambiguous term. I mean, it's not unambiguous at all. Yeah. The alternative is that you're going to have Salafi jihadists funded by Gulf state monarchies in charge of that country, right?
Even that criticism, you can't. There's no lack of dissent in Syria. That's just fundamentally not true.
No, that's not what I mean. You can't specifically criticize Assad publicly, the person. Is what I mean. Even people I know from. Yeah,
that's just not my understanding. I mean, sure you can, but your criticism can't be towards overthrow of the government. I think that's what the whole speech argument comes into it. People are like, oh, you don't have free speech there. The strongman dictator, all this shit. Well, if you're in Venezuela or your speech is also backed by billionaire money and ruling class money to foment dissent and overthrow the government, you can't do that in the United States.
Oh no,
that's within the institution. That's within the past 100-year history of the United States of groups like the Communist Party and other groups or organizations, the Black Panther Party, that actually whose speech actually became big enough to challenge the state. They got militarily repressed by the government. You can't do that in no government, in no country.
Your
speech be strong enough to,
But I don't know.
in general,
I've heard people that are huge supporters of the government tell me that are reporters that have been there. But I don't even care. The point is, your point's much more important. Whether that's true or not, I'm not even sure the context is that. It's about who has the power of speech, and about especially the insane hypocrisy of the U.S. talking about speech rights when you look at the history of how dissidents have been repressed at every single level in this country. Just look at Paul Robeson being dragged before the House Committee on Un-American Activities and being just completely just dehumanized, having to the way they just divided and conquered, using it as leverage to get other people to snitch on other people, to just destroy people in every way imaginable.
Well, one of the things I wanted to bring up was, there was that picture of the Syrian delegation of international observers, two of which were from Chicago. One of them is actually a good comrade of mine. He does organizing for community control of the police. Name's Kobe. He actually was one of the people on that delegation, and it was just crazy to see Anna, share that picture of the delegation and be like, oh, these are all Assadi backed, blah, blah, bullshit. And it's these are people in this picture, part of the delegation who are part of the same movements. A couple months ago, you're praising, for challenging the status quo and shit. You don't know who you're talking about, So this has all become a weird, it's just ridiculous to see kind of, for no reason. I mean, I guess Bashar al-Assad won re-election, so maybe that's why this has come back up. But what was said, if you ask any Syrian, especially Syrian Christian that you meet, especially in Jacksonville, you meet Syrian as they are supportive of the government.
It's existential for them, man. I mean, you're talking about absolutely the plans for any kind of Islamic state that's a Salafi jihadist, Sunni Gulf state monarchy, slave state monarchy backed regime there that, the government, the U.S. just like, whitewashes as if they're like somehow part of like some sort of like freedom alliance. It's just disgusting. And especially Syrian Christians. And we know, like, in Mike and my hometown of Jacksonville, like the Arab Christian community there is like the largest in the country. And like for them, it's straight up existential. I mean, I've known Palestinians and Syrians and Lebanese like my whole life. And for them, they would absolutely be the apostates, being, executed in medieval like gruesome fashion out there in public for all to see. But of course, that wouldn't be broadcasted in the U.S. because it doesn't meet the U.S. geopolitical objectives, which are to weaken any state that's anywhere near Israel, right? To having and keeping them in a perpetual state of not being developed, being backwards. And let's not forget also the Caesar sanctions that are still preventing Syria from rebuilding. Go ahead, Justin.
Hey, serious crime. I mean, let's be honest. Let's talk about Syria's like actual crime, because they have an actual crime, and that's that they have no IMF debt. That was a joke.
Yeah,
See, because that's
no.
They have no IMF debt. They're not beholden to our institutions of financial imperialism in any way, and that is the crime. I mean, Biden's speech yesterday about how imagine if America did all these horrible things, that all things we do. But anyway, like, you see something like that and you understand why they can't just come out and be like, look, Syria's got a crime on their hands. And that's that they're not indebted to us. They're not indebted to our banks. They're not able to then trade their natural resource to pay off said debt. So therefore, they have to be bad people. End of story. That's their crime. But they can't say that, so they gotta make up crimes. And as far as like, I've always loved the argument. It's the same argument of the Navalny shit, and that is
who's a fascist, by the way. Who's a fascist?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. He's not only is that dude super. Yeah, go ahead.
One of the reporters, we talked about the White House press corps reporters. They were like, they had a meeting with Biden and Putin, and they was like, Putin, why are you so afraid of Navalny? Like, what?
Yeah.
That dude has never polled over 3%. I have to bring that up every time because they always talk about how he's an opposition leader. He's never polled in all of Russia with all of its people. He's never polled over 3%. How is he a leader of anything?
Well, he's obviously somebody who will play ball with the U.S. I'll be real. Like, Putin had a good quote. He was like, we are not jealous of the U.S., but the U.S. wants to hurt our development. And I think that all the anti-Russia stuff that we've seen is literally a clash between two countries striving to, like who's like ruling classes are trying to like make money. I think that's what you kind of see from that. And I don't know, it's just like kind of crazy to see because the real opposition in to Putin's like United Party, I think, is the Communist Party of Russia. they have the second most influence in the legislature in Russia. So if the U.S. really cared about the opposition party, I wonder why they're not talking about, hey, the Communist Party of Russia, is having a good.
Well, you know why? That would give them too much credibility.
Yeah. You have to talk about them like they don't exist because but yet Navalny in his 2.7% polling. He's the real opposition.
Look at all this is the thing people got to realize. Like, all because it's a protest doesn't mean it's a good protest, and I hope the anti-lockdown protests have shown people like all protests have a class character. It's not just protest is good or all that shit. So all the protests that Navalny and all that shit, it's all been a bunch of fascists, and right wingers in those protests. That's essentially the character of the protests, similar to the protests that we've seen in Venezuela against the Maduro regime. Like
don't say regime, bro.
Maduro regime, whatever.
I know.
No, say regime. Say regime. Just use it.
But is a regime inherently a bad thing? I'm just curious though. Like for real, like it's like. You know what
the
they
title. The regime.
my bad. The regime.
The Venezuelan government. These all these protests that have supported Navalny in Russia have all been right in character. I mean, it's been Russia has a huge Nazi problem.
Oh, major.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. It's fucking wild. Listen, we only use regime when it's to the U.S.
Yeah, I agree. My bad.
Hey, no. No, Mike's trying to recalibrate the word's meaning here on Redspin Sports. He's going to recalibrate, right? Linguistic autonomy, going on here tonight on Redspin Sports. So let's see, they did do that, and then they also remember the absolutely. So facts. Go ahead.
It's absolutely wild. All right.
So this is go ahead. All right, you don't have anything else?
I just love why would I'm just going to pose a question here, and that is that why would the same supposed KGB agents use the same aliases and the exact same passports to apparently poison the Skripal and then try to kidnap Navalny? Little things like that where you're just like, this doesn't make any sense. Even bad spies know that you don't do that.
Yeah.
Same with the chemical weapon attack in Syria. You have if the one thing that could go wrong for you is to chemically attack your own people, the U.S. is on the way out. Your enemies are defeated. Everything's going well for you. The only thing you could not do right now to screw things up would be, I'm weird. It's the one thing you did.
Yeah.
And again, same with this Navalny shit. It's why? Think about it. You're a spy. You've apparently used an alias and a passport to allegedly poison somebody in one country. And then a couple years later, you use the same passports and the same aliases to attack Navalny. Yeah. It's fucking ridiculous.
They're banking on the laziness of the American people, right? To not connect the obvious dots right there. So that's just it, man.
Yeah. The obvious is always there. I got a really quick sports thing. No. We can go back to this. Yeah.
We'll go back to it. I can't help myself. It's just too it's just they need to be so exposed for this. And the fact that this guy has literally wiped all the history of this off. It's not like this was that long ago. This was we're talking.
I never watched the Young Turks.
Yeah.
The crotch shot.
But the reason it matters is keep the context. This is all this stuff is important, but it's disgusting that they are weaponizing these misogynists who did this not just once or twice, who made a habit of constantly, spot the camel toe. Let's just all look at look at her vag, and blah blah blah, stuff that they would just drag anybody at the gray zone for. Anybody that actually challenges imperialism who don't even do anything in the area code like that of what they're doing. It's outer projection. It's there's totally different rules for what you can do and get away with, supposedly, if you play ball according to what in terms of being a State Department stenographer. And that's just what it is.
Up on tyt.com so you could see it uncensored. I'm going to say that again. He's going to put a picture that someone took up a woman's skirt of her naked vagina, and he's going to put it up at his website so you can go see it without it blurred out for clicks. I don't know what you call that.
Look, whatever you think of Jimmy Dore, and I certainly respect people that have their valid criticisms of him, but this is just straight up, I don't know how you can argue with it. We'll just keep going here.
But that's pornography. Cenk's a literal pornographer. He's putting up naked pictures of women, unwanted photos that were taken up their skirt. Cenk is putting them up at his website and telling his viewers to go look at it for clicks. That's literally a pornographer. Okay, so let's watch this segment.
Had to block that one out there. But you have got to put on underwear. You've got to. My God, girl, you're going to dinner with your dad. and you got your cooch all exposed. That's sick. That's crazy.
What is
I can't
this?
imagine that we go to a family dinner.
Politics.
My sister's got a short skirt on with no underwear.
What is this?
And people are constantly taking shots of her at this angle.
Why is
and
this
she still has
happening?
no underwear. I mean, I wouldn't allow it, man.
Right.
You know, I'm the most evil guy in the world, and I'd be like, no, bitch, get your shit straightened out, okay?
I mean, this is a guy that is like criticizing people for misogyny. Like he and Anna Kasparian, they're going out and like trying to get their whole crew to like, and they're not going after. They didn't just like go after Jimmy Dore like at any time other than now they're pushing back on you flicking Aaron Mate off and saying like, oh yeah, fuck the gray zone. Like they're just apologists for dictators. They're apologists for like the most worst people in the world, the worst dictators in the world. And then you want to drop this stuff, especially when you got these skeletons in your closet. Like it's astounding.
You are not to go outside the house anymore without panties on.
Right. I totally agree with you. At the same time, I want to give her credit for something.
Oh, you do?
I do. Unfortunately, we're not able to see it on YouTube, but if you go on our website, theyoungturks.com, you can see it.
So she just said it. You can't see it on our website. I mean, at YouTube,
Yo,
but go to our website and we're going to show you the unblurred version of her vagina.
Come throw us some clicks, you know?
A picture taken up her skirt that she didn't want taken.
That's
and now
porn.
they're sharing it on their website for clicks. I'm pretty sure that's called pornography. Here we go.
Uncensored. And a point that I want to make about it is, for somebody who seems like she hasn't really been taking care of herself for a while, she is perfectly hairless.
Oh,
I know that's an odd point to make, but I mean, could you imagine if she didn't groom herself and she didn't wear any underwear?
Whatever. Put up this censored picture here, Jesus. Okay, she looks beat. I don't care if she doesn't have any hair down there. She looks terrible. Her legs are like fatty and creamy and pale and disgusting. And then her hair is screwed up and her face looks bad. She looks so bad there that I wouldn't even do her.
Wow.
Can you imagine?
Holy.
Yeah, fuck those guys.
Damn.
But-
how the fuck have they been on the air for like 13 years now?
Yo, that's just the tip of the iceberg, too. Like, I'm not going to keep going on with this. I got other things to do. We all do. But, like, just go check it out if you want to. I mean, it's just, like, Anya went off for, like, an hour the other night and just, like, literally surgically destroyed Anna Kasparian. And the fact that she is not a journalist. She has done no reporting on Syria. And all she does is actually go out and, like, humanize people like Madeleine Albright, going to NATO summits, doing like interviews of like, and acting as if, this is a woman that said it was worth it for over 1 million Iraqis to die, hundreds of thousands of children. It was worth it, and you're just like,
worth the price.
But Putin and Assad are evil, and like, oh my gosh, Aaron Mate, fuck you, Aaron Mate. Like, what the fuck is that? Like, what is that? You're sitting here talking about morals and like going on this virtue signaling BS. You have no credibility. None of you. Man.
Not only that, like that Madeleine Albright quote is so gross because somebody who literally paid no price does not get to say it's worth paying the price. Like, you know what I mean? It's like let's put it on the most base level, right? And let's say like a friend of you like overspent on something like just casual, and you'd be like, "No, it's really awesome, man. It's totally worth it." And you're like, "You didn't even buy it. Like, you're not even the one who bought it. Like, why are you saying that?" She paid no fucking price. Madeleine Albright paid no price. She's literally saying, "Yeah, like 500,000 kids died and over 1 million people died because of these sanctions." But it was worth the price. Like, again, bitch, what price did you pay? Like, what price did Madeleine Albright pay? Like, you don't get to weigh in if you've paid no price. Like, that quote will always be just wild to me because of that context alone. Like, she paid nothing.
No, not at all. And this is Anya, by the way. I'll just play the beginning of it for you because just shout out, great friend of the show, great personal friend, and a great journalist, unlike Anna Kasparian.
Bring it, Anya. Anya, what, are you shocked by any of that? Because
I don't know if you actually had the camera rolling while you were playing the clip, but I was, because here's the thing. I've read Cenk's misogynist comments, the ones that media have dug up, and we can get into that later. And I thought it was unfair when they were smearing him at the time, but nothing compared to that. Also, I bet you he would do her.
He literally said that.
But did you see the tirade that they've been going on? This moralistic tirade that
so
somehow there's no room in the movement for things like that.
Well, exactly, Jimmy. That's why I wanted to talk today. And honestly, I was surprised by the level of gutter commentary they reached in that segment you just played, because I hadn't seen it before. Then on the other hand, and Anna, as a woman going along with that, I should be like stepping back for a second and scratching my head. How could a woman actually make these comments about another woman with a male host? On the other hand, she's already an Armenian woman working for a network called The Young Turks, which is honestly... The first time I ever heard about the Young Turks, I was scratching my head because I was remembering my 10th grade world history.
Like, why does that exist?
When they taught me that the Young Turks
Why are they called that?
actually waged a genocide against Armenian people. So I always was like, why did you guys pick that as your name? And how is an Armenian woman working for this network? But then when you hear what Anna's willing to go along with in terms of making commentary about a woman's body, her actual vagina, which is insane. I'm not surprised, and it's honestly sad because I guess she for some reason felt pressured to go along with that commentary for her career for one reason or another.
Yeah, that's it.
And yet here she is.
That I don't know if she felt pressed. That's her segment. That she would do the second hour. She would curate the stories. That's her segment.
Crazy.
She wasn't pressured to do that. That was what she did.
I mean, that's
why her and Cenk are such a perfect fit. She did that stuff. Cenk did that stuff. That's who they were. They're the ones who fostered that environment. I didn't do that. That was them. Let's go moving forward a little bit more. Here we go.
That's your big hero right there.
So he's talking about me because they showed me tell that story about Anna exposing herself in the newsroom and me making a joke about it. And he's upset that I told that story. And this is what he says.
That's your big hero right there that does that to women, looks up their skirt and then laughs at them and then pretends it's their fault that he's looking up their skirt. Now, parts of the story that aren't true. Of course, Anna wasn't wearing a skirt that short. Of
course she was.
Of course, nobody else saw. That pervert was trying to desperately look. That's why he made apparently several comments about her body before. And by the way, who was in the room? Anna was teaching at the time.
Which is why Anna had her students observing in the studio, which is why I thought it was extra crazy that she was dressed that way and exposing herself. It was extra crazy. And that's why when I made the joke, everybody laughed.
Look,
she had brought in her student.
And by the way, I've again already apologized to her for it. Even though, and I said, you don't have to worry about that. I'm not going to make a on Syria, and for me reporting on their shady business practices, and for me pointing out that Cenk was running interference for Force to Vote. That's what this is all about. They admitted it. Cenk's going to admit it in a minute. That's what this is about. And then you saw the phoniness about how Anna's like, we don't want any of this talk.
Him, Assange.
Right,
yeah, it was using the same tactic.
And real quick, that whole thing, I don't know the background of that. I just know that like it's just the pot calling the kettle black. I mean, he evidently made a card. It was like that was in front of a bunch of other people. I don't know. I'm not even going to comment on that. Like I said, I'm not sitting here to like promote Jimmy Dore. I'm just like, Anya was on the show. I'm promoting what Anya said. And I think it's like just astounding. I mean, like, let me just finish. Let just hear what she says for like another minute or two. Then we'll move on. But
yes.
Using a woman who'd actually worked in Cuba for the CIA to claim that Assange raped her when they had consensual sex. And notice also in that interview with Patrick Hillsman, they tried to throw WikiLeaks under the bus.
Yes, they did that again yesterday.
They were like, they were trying to offer money Aaron already debunked that in the previous segment, so I'll let you continue with what you want to say.
Okay. Well, it's just hilarious to watch their pretend moralizing. Cenk must have taken an acting class.
Her college students here. No, they did not laugh out loud.
Yes, they did.
Jimmy, in his own mind, thinks it's hilarious to be a pervert sexual harasser like that, and thinks, oh, all the.
Hold on, I'm just like
with this fucking thing. If you keep
for men to make
y'all can go check out the whole thing if you want. I want to get the audience stuff here.
Comments about your outfits, and it's a lot of times it's upsetting, but most of the time there's someone who's working with you in the office, and maybe you see it as a joke, and it is resolved interpersonally unless you actually view that person as a predator, in which case I don't think Anna is actually claiming that she's not claiming that you did anything wildly inappropriate or evil to the point that she would view you as a threat or someone who should be like taken back from the left and not around women because you're going to do something. No, we never heard about any of this until you and Aaron my colleague Aaron Mate had thoroughly embarrassed, humiliated Anna and Cenk by extension in terms of actual facts, actual issues regarding foreign policy, imperial policy of the United States. And they went in way too deep. And they couldn't actually, they were like, oh, we're going to have a journalist from Syria on, and we're going to bring in the.
Who's a regime, is a neocon hack who like poses with like this, American flag, like jingoistic stuff all over his social media, who's like all about like promoting the idea that the Syrian opposition, like they really like literally whitewashing who these like Salafi jihadist like opposition forces in Syria are that are working with the U.S. national security state, CIA, to promote imperialism, to promote the objectives of the CIA, straight up.
Receipts. And then they were like, wait, we said that, and that's not actually what we have. We have some troll from Brooklyn who's never actually reported on this issue, and he's going to come on and say how Aaron's wrong. But it looks.
So for context, they brought this troll from Brooklyn on like a few days ago as like, we're going to have a Syrian voice on, right? To like counteract Aaron's reporting on the OPCW and how the leadership of it under pressure from, U.S. national security state, forces and NATO forces, like literally went about, going after the scientists that were on the ground in Duma and like reported on their very real concerns about the fact that their conclusions were left out of the official OPCW report about like what went on there in Duma.
Looks kind of silly. So how are we going to continue to push this narrative that Jimmy is a liar, that Jimmy is evil? And they came up with an unbased accusation smearing you as a harasser. And I think that just says everything about where they're at in terms of their argument, because that's why I tweeted today that it's like Godwin's law. Godwin's law is that if you're arguing politically with someone, it's only a matter of time before the person who's losing or someone invokes the Holocaust in order to justify their position. Because what that does is that it shuts down all debate. It shuts down all questioning. You're actually smearing your opponent as a Nazi. And what they did in this case is they were backed into a corner.
All right, so we'll stop there. But y'all can. I've shared the link in the live chat. Any reaction though before we? Because I'm going to go ahead, I think, and bring it to a conclusion here. I wanted to, but Mike, I don't know. Any thoughts on Syria you want to wrap with, or just in the way journalism in this country kind of acts as sheepdogs for national security state objectives under the guise of being progressive and all that kind of stuff?
I mean, you pretty much already said it. I mean, I think what we're seeing is with the decline of U.S. imperialism, you're kind of seeing Syria is a prime example in which U.S. imperialism didn't win, and they're not winning. They are trying to win, and they're constantly trying to struggle for a greater advantage in destabilizing Syria for the purpose of Western oil interests and Zionist interests, as well as the other Gulf monarchy state interests. But they aren't being successful. So you're going to have like liberal journalists like TYT as well as MSNBC, always try to tout the horn of of like U.S. imperialism in a way that makes them sound better. I mean, it's kind of it is what it is. I mean, I saw
Yeah.
funny Joy Reid on MSNBC. She's like, pro U.S. imperialist like foreign policy rhetoric. She was like, she compared like the voting like restriction laws that are being passed all over the state to it's just like North Korea. And it's like it reminded me of a meme that says when something is completely American and they try to make it sound Asian, you know.
It's called what? Projection. That's what it is, man. Projection. Yep. And I want to wrap up tonight. So we're going to go ahead and bring it to a conclusion. I think rest in peace, Abdus Lukman. His the husband of known as Baba Lukman, affectionately, just a great human being. I mean, if you get a chance, Black Power Media and Lukman Nation, their YouTube channel. I've gone on By Any Means Necessary, going on a year this summer, or is this summer? So about 10, about a year now, yeah. And his wife Jackie, and like the love they had for each other, you see that in very few couples. And like they were a revolutionary couple. They were always out there promoting like workers going on strike. I remember they're out there standing in solidarity with like grocery store workers, bringing attention to the Bamazon stuff, and then also trying to make connections about Pan-Africanism and like Marxism and just every way imaginable. Just good people, man. Good people. And I'll be on. And I can't believe it because even just last week, Sean Blackman was saying today on By Any Means Necessary, he was with Abdus in the flesh, there in the studio at Sputnik. He was as live as you could imagine, as live as anyone could be. So I just wanted to play this tribute they put on Black Power Media as we close out the night. And my heartfelt condolences go out to you, Jackie Lukman. You are a beautiful human being, and I know your husband Abdus is resting in peace and resting in power, like the. So here is the little tribute they played. Yeah, it's just I can't. It's really I still can't believe that's just real. I mean, it's really really unbelievable to me. And for those of you who aren't those of you who aren't aware of heard, I mean, I don't know. It's that was a tough pill to swallow, man. Seeing that, and it's let's see. I mean, this was just where was it? Just a few days ago, actually. Well, anyways, yeah, go check out. I'll put Lukman Nation's YouTube channel for those of you who haven't checked it out in the comments there. You can check it out. Really, I mean, he the work he had done, man, just like the insight he had and understanding the revolutionary tradition was really I thought amazing, and I learned a lot from the man in the short time knew him. So rest in peace. So. Dang, we got a crowd in here now. I hate to shut it down, but at least for us, this live stream stuff. But we gotta, get some other stuff going. But maybe we'll talk about it on the way out. Please go check out Justin's work, the Andrew Marinus interview. I mean, the video will be dropping soon, but the audio is already out on Patreon. And
I'll get the video up. Yeah, the video will be up tomorrow.
And also got to announce next week we're gonna be joined by Chuck Modiano, aka Chuck Modi from Deadspin fame, used to write for the New York Daily News Sports. He'll be with us for next Thursday night's live stream, who has done a great job, great service this last year, going out and like being on the ground. I think in a lot of ways deterring police misconduct, out there when the mainstream media has gone home at these protests, especially in Washington, D.C., where he's based right now. So looking forward to that, and check us out next week on Redspin Sports, 8:00. We're actually going to start at 8 on the dot next week with Chuck. Because we got a guest, and that's things are a little more tight with that, and really looking forward to that. So, any last thoughts, just in general, things that should be on our radar in terms of the world of sports that we want to hit on?
Yeah, I just want to throw one thing out there, and that is that it's a sport that gets overlooked in the mainstream. I mean, not the majors get covered, but other than that, it gets overlooked in the mainstream. But what's happening with the players right now in the world of tennis, I think, is a really big thing that especially leftists can get down with, and that is that they are pulling out of more majors. Stars are pulling out, number 1 ranked, number 2 ranked. They're pulling out of major tournaments because of their media obligations and because of mental health. And the stir that that's caused, and it's ruffling feathers. And Rafael Nadal has pulled out of Wimbledon. The women's number 2, Osaka, she's pulled out of Wimbledon. And I just, have solidarity with these folks because, again, the money they make compared to what, the powers that be that run these sports make is that which is always what separates you from your boss. I assure you, it's usually a lot closer than you'd think with these athletes, regardless of what deals they get, regardless of what sponsorships they get. And, advocating for them, advocating for these athletes in these moments where they need the time and they're pushed to the brink is really important. So it's something to watch because I actually think that you're going to see some moves. You're going to see some PR moves. You're going to see the tennis and the organization behind tennis actually start to push back on this. I think you're gonna see some stuff come down, and it's going to be important to look at what side you were on, and understanding that. Yeah.
Naomi Osaka, man, it's like she's been like vocal and in support for BLM and the movement, and I think it's just in general the idea of like protecting your body, and like, is your body more important, your longevity more important, or the profit of like major tennis? With Wimbledon coming up at the end of the month, just coming off the heels of the French Open. I mean, I'll be honest. I mean, for the match between Nadal, and Djokovic was like straight up amazing. Like, I mean, I had to watch it was just like every bit of drama. That was, I mean, he's got to put his body first now, like, in terms of like prioritizing his ability to play long term. And of course, I think there's going to be more pushback from the forces in tennis. I mean, you already saw Naomi Osaka prioritizing her mental health over the mandates that she goes and does media obligations and she withdrew from the French Open at Roland Garros. So it's powerful, and so I appreciate you bringing that up, Justin. Yeah, Mike, you want to close us out, man?
No, I'm good, man. Appreciate everybody for hopping on.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And can't wait for next week, and we're really excited and appreciative to have Chuck on. So absolutely, man, we got it. And like Mike just reminded us, we got to start getting these uploaded, the podcast audio. So that I'll work on getting that done here in the next few days. So appreciate it. And until next week on the live stream, keep fighting and take it. We're out. Peace.